All right, man, peace. So as we all know by now, the front runner for the NFL MVP award, Carson Wentz, has gone down with a season-ending ACL injury in their victory over the LA Rams. So of course now, the odds for the NFL MVP have shifted, and the award is pretty much up for grabs. One of the front runners is the non-quarterback, Antonio Brown of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Entering Week 14, Carson Wentz had the second best odds to win MVP, only behind Tom Brady. Not only is Wentz now done for the year, but we also saw Russell Wilson and Drew Brees take losses this week, potentially hurting their MVP chances. Now, Ryan Clark back with us now. Look, to me, Tom Brady, he's never not had to lead this season, right? So if we want to argue now about an MVP race about second place.
I agree with that. No, I already made a video stating that, in my view, Tom Brady was the MVP of the NFL. I mean, to me, it wasn't even that close. When you compare the talent level that Tom Brady has to what Carson Wentz had before he went down, it wasn't even close. Now, Carson Wentz was having a great season. I would have put him a smidgen above Antonio Brown. But for me, Tom Brady was the MVP so far in this NFL season.
Or is the ways?
Can we talk about second place in climbing, though?
Okay.
Can we talk about second place in climbing? Second place and could take over first next week.
Ooh, tell us.
Against the Patriots.
Against the Patriots. Number 84 from the Pittsburgh Steelers, Antonio Brown.
Well, look, Antonio Brown's having a phenomenal season. He's a phenomenal player. But do I think that he has a chance to win the NFL MVP this year? No, not right now. I think that if he comes out this game on Sunday, and has a phenomenal game, anywhere from 180 receiving yards or more, and 2 or more touchdowns, and he will definitely put his name into the hat for the running for this year's NFL MVP. And it may be possible, who knows? A lot of strange things have happened this NFL season. They might as well put a cherry on top and give the NFL MVP to Antonio Brown if he dominates the last 3 games of the regular season.
Really? And I know that doesn't happen. It's a quarterback. Yeah, it's a quarterback award. Right, but if you watch what Antonio Brown is doing, when you know he's getting the ball, he's going to be the target, and he just makes play after play after play. And even though he gets these yards and Ben's his quarterback, Ben don't look as good as Antonio looks.
I agree with that. And I think that a lot of times it's difficult for people to understand whether it's the wide receiver making the quarterback look better or if it's the quarterback making the wide receiver look better. Now, I will say this. When Ben goes down, Antonio Brown's production goes down as well. But once again, Ben Roethlisberger is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I do believe at this point in his career that Ben needs Antonio a little bit more than Antonio needs Ben at this point in his career right now. I think that if Antonio Brown were to go down, that it would show in Ben Roethlisberger's performance. I'll also say this. The one game this season where Ben Roethlisberger made a concerted attempt to get Antonio Brown the ball, he threw, I believe, 5 interceptions against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But still, all in all, to me, Antonio Brown is probably right now the most dominant non-quarterback offensive player in the NFL.
Right now, in the way he's playing, Russell Wilson take a step back with 3 interceptions and a loss. Antonio moves up into that spot. Carson Wentz gets hurt. He goes out, has a big game against the Patriots next week, and they beat him.
Especially the way that Belichick tries to take away what you do best.
Right.
Like your primary option.
It's going to be easier said than done against this
100%. But you're right. Like, look, if a receiver's ever going to do it, it's him. But with Brady, though, like you said, always been the front runner, even though some people, which might have included you, tried to say he was done. Believe it or not, it's kind of almost like a feel-good story to Brady, of all people. Even though a lot of people are sick of him winning it, sick of the Patriots, the way they started the season.
You feel good?
No. I'm saying you had so many people putting him out to pasture. You had so many people saying he was done, but he's.
Well, you had a lot of the metric geeks who were trying to put him out to pasture, who were trying to prognosticate how good a season Brady would have this year based off of him being 40 and over. I mean, to me, you really can't do that because, number one, there is a history of quarterbacks still being feasible at 40 years old or over. And this is not as physical a league as it once was. Warren Moon was still a serviceable quarterback at 40 years old. Even Brett Favre at 40 years old was feasible. Peyton Manning, he went down at about 39, but remember, he had a very debilitating neck injury. So I had no problem believing that Tom Brady was still going to be very good, even at 40, 41, 42 years old. His level of play is so lofty that even if he were to take a level or two step down, he's still going to be a great quarterback.
He's the old guy, the oldie, but still just as goody, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and now,
I feel good about it though, Michael.
Did I call you a homer when you picked Antonio Brown to finish? When you fence straddled and said it's Brady, but it might be Antonio Brown next week?
No,
I didn't say nothing about you.
I thought we all agreed it was Brady, and
but then you said,
started,
but here's my take on Antonio Brown.
Started another conversation.
Okay.
I'm just entertained by this.
So I'm just trying to figure out why would we ever feel good about anything that happens in New England.
You can let it go, Ryan.
You have it all. You know what? I have no hate for him. Who thought Tom Brady was done?
Let me talk about a lot of people. Let me talk about a sport.
One of your compatriots, Max Kellerman, thought that he was going to be done starting late this season. I mean, there are a lot of people who tried to claim or proclaim that Tom Brady has been nearing his end. And of course, as they say, Father Time is undefeated. Eventually, Tom Brady will fall off a bit, but certainly not this season, no. And one thing that many sportscasters or sports analysts love to do, especially with athletes who are around Tom Brady's age, is whenever they have a bad game, it's supposedly due to his age. But when he has a great game, he's ascending over Father Time, or he's transcending what normally is expected to happen. Or maybe he's just having a good game or a bad game. Sometimes it's just not that deep. In the era that we live in now, with the knowledge that people have about nutrition and conditioning, athletes should be able to perform later on in age than athletes in previous generations. And beyond that, there's just so much more information. So there's really not much of an excuse for athletes to not be better. And then you also have the performance-enhancing drug angle, which I'm not going to accuse Tom Brady of per se. But would it shock me? No, it wouldn't. But once again, I'm not accusing him. His name has not come up on any ledgers that I know of.
Sport that you know something about, basketball. Let's talk about that. LeBron might get MVP this year, even though there has been fatigue with LeBron, and LeBron is deserving of MVP every single year.
Well, no, he's not, but he may get MVP this year because he would deserve it this year. This year is the greatest season I've ever seen LeBron have in regards to intellect. Now, the best season that he's had have been the 2012-13 and 13-14 seasons. Those were his best seasons. But the season that he's having this year, his brain is functioning on another level in regards to his play on the basketball court. He's seeing things 3-4 steps ahead. And I'm sure many people will say, well, LeBron has always done that. Well, LeBron is a wonderkind. He's a mastermind on the court. But to this degree, mentally, he's just ascended to a whole other level this year.
But the way he played in the finals and the way he's playing now, doesn't it feel like people want to right or wrong and give it to the best player in the world?
No, I feel like James Harden's going to get it. I mean, I think that James Harden can make more of a case that he's been wronged than LeBron James. LeBron James already has 4 MVPs. Now, people can run around and say that LeBron can win it every year. I believe that the years that LeBron has not won the MVP, for the most part, he didn't deserve to win the MVP. KD deserved that MVP in 2014, I believe it was. Steph Curry deserved his MVPs in 15 and 16. And Westbrook, he even deserved his partially in 2017 over LeBron. Now, whether he deserved it over James Harden, that's a whole other story. But once again, James Harden can make a better case for having been jobbed than LeBron James would should he not win it this year.
Likewise with Tom Brady, even though he's the GOAT and could be MVP any year, it feels like there's also the corresponding narrative you need to cast a vote, Jamel, as it relates to Brady, which is, oh, look at him defying Father Time.
Yeah,
look at him dealing with all the people around him.
He's old. That's the narrative.
And then people in September were like, look at him falling off the cliff, and then they go trade Garoppolo because he's still just that good. That's all I'm saying.
No, I
Does that make sense?
No, that makes
he doesn't seem to get,
No, it doesn't make much sense, but it's a stretch, which basically is what you guys are employed to do, to create stretches and narratives. But I get it. You're trying to create a storyline to justify Tom Brady getting the MVP as opposed to just saying he's having a great season.
That makes I think the trigger word for him was feel good and Patriots in the same sentence. Almost
like Yankees and good for baseball.
Yeah, exactly. It's like kind of like the Patriots have enough nice things. Do they really need
like the Steelers ain't ever been good. The Steelers are underdog or something.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, there you go, right? It's okay. No, I mean, look, I have been one of those people who, throughout many years, have railed on this award, has single-handedly become a quarterback's award. I mean,
Well, that's because the NFL has become a quarterback's league. One could say that, yes, other players deserve more consideration for the award, but the NFL right now is so much of a quarterback's league than it was even when I was growing up. When I was growing up, the best quarterbacks were Montana, Marino, and Elway. And even back then, it predominantly went to the quarterback. Every once in a while, a running back would get it. But Jerry Rice, who in my view is the greatest NFL player I've ever seen, he never won the award. He got the most consideration, but even he never got the award. So for the most part, the NFL MVP has always been predominantly a quarterback's award. Now, during the 70s and 80s, it was much more of a running league. So there was a higher probability for the running back to get the award. But now the league is so dependent on the quarterback. So, I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, there's a part of me that, just for the breakup of it, to see Antonio Brown really be a factor in this conversation, but I just don't think he will be, even if they do win next week. Look, Tom Brady, I think the way that he's performed all season, this has got to be a body of work. Not that Antonio Brown hasn't had it, but I think when you talk about age, now you talk about the fact that he's missed or will miss Rob Gronkowski this game, and I know he's played and performed well without Gronk. Then you look at how much their defense struggled and how he kind of carried them through that until they got their stuff together. So he's just been
agreed.
Been so consistent all season.
No, absolutely.
Players have come in and out. Like Russell Wilson, he didn't get off to the greatest start either, and then he started balling. And then, you know what I'm saying? He's been a guy all season.
And that's why I've always felt like Brady deserved it over Wentz, because Wentz has multiple primetime A-plus players on his squad on both offense and defense. A lot of people forget how good Alshon Jeffrey is as a wide receiver. He's not speedy, but he has phenomenal hands. Great hands. On offense and defense, they have great players. Zach Ertz, great tight end. They have a great offensive line. Even with the injury that they had to their left tackle, they still have a great offensive line. Lane Johnson is still there. So that's why they still feel confident that a player like Nick Foles can come in and still be serviceable.
I feel that way about Tom, too. I've talked about how the reason Tom doesn't win it all the time is like LeBron, is like Michael Jordan. You just want to give it to the dude that had the second best season just so you don't have to give it to him. Story.
Well, not quite, because Tom Brady has always had a peer. Michael Jordan has never had a peer when he played. Now, early in his career, he had a peer, or had peers, plural, that being Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. He had peers in that era. Once they left, he had no peers. So, to me, it's not quite equivalent to compare Michael Jordan to Tom Brady. Tom Brady had peers. Like Peyton Manning was a peer. There was a debate for a long time who was the best player. In the 90s, there was no debate over who was the best player. Now, when Jordan retired, Olajuwon took over. When he came back, people may forget, but in the early part of the 95-96 season, there was a debate over who was the best player. Was it Jordan or Olajuwon early on? And then the Bulls got off to that great start. Of course, ended up winning 72 games. And Jordan was able to take back that mantle. But Brady, for the most part, has played his whole career with a peer, that being Peyton Manning. So I don't believe that there's ever been a sense that, well, the player who won the MVP, it was just an honorary gift because Tom Brady should have gotten it. I don't believe that that's ever been the case. Beyond that, you have the great Aaron Rodgers.
Right, just so you have to give it to him. The story about him being old, I just never bought into it because I ain't seen the dude slip nothing.
You understand what I'm saying?
Until I see him slip.
I wasn't talking to you when I said it. I was talking to the people that didn't know what
until I see him slip. But I do think what Antonio has been able to do at a position that's so dependent on other people,
else,
and he doesn't have the Julio Jones stuff.
Right,
like
physical standpoint.
Right. If Antonio walked by us, we'd be like, oh, look at that little dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we watched him run a 40, we'd be like, that was pretty regular.
Right.
But then when you watch him play, he dominates dude, and I think that's really impressive.
It'd also be...
Well, you oftentimes see that in sports. It's very, very difficult to judge greatness from the outward appearance. Jerry Rice ran like a 4.6, 4.7 at the combine in the 40-yard dash. But as far as game speed, and I say this all the time, I saw Jerry Rice run away from Darryl Green. I saw it. They played a playoff game against the Washington Redskins. I believe it was 91 or 92. You brothers could look it up. San Francisco played a playoff game against the Washington Redskins at Candlestick Park, and Jerry Rice caught like a post pattern and ran away from Darryl Green, who ran a 4.1 40. Darryl Green was the NFL's fastest man for like 15 years, and he ran away from him like nothing. Jerry Rice had NFL speed. He didn't have track speed.
It'll be fun to see him come full circle and win it in the same season where, remember, he knocked over the Gatorade cooler.
Yeah, absolutely.
A selfish guy, and he turned out to be most valuable.
They throw it to him 18 times a game.
You know what? With all due respect to our fellow colleagues, most valuable analyst right there.
Gosh, this is why I
Look how
feel
y'all
with you
make
guys,
it,
man.
Look at that. Hug it out. All right. Now.
Well, he is a great analyst. He just needs to get rid of that bullshit on top of his head. All right. So NFL great and should be Hall of Famer Terrell Owens was on hand. He also chimed in regards to his perspective on who should be the NFL MVP for this season and whether or not Antonio Brown should receive considerable consideration. So let's see what he has to say.
But let's talk a little football here. Now, we mentioned the odds that Antonio Brown faces in terms of winning the MVP. He's got a big matchup with the Patriots this weekend. Is this the kind of game that if Antonio Brown shows out and the Steelers win and they beat the Patriots, how much do you think this MVP campaign for him will pick up? Would he deserve to be strongly in that conversation, if not leading it, if he does what he needs to do against the Patriots?
Well, before TL answers, I'm going to answer. It's very obvious that the answer is yes. How do you know that? Because the media is already creating the pretext for Antonio Brown to receive more serious consideration for the award. Because that's pretty much how it happens. The media controls how players are perceived and how seriously they're considered for various awards and accolades. The media is the reason why T.O. is not in the Hall of Fame. So their mindset is that perception is reality. Why? Because they control what people perceive. They control what people have access to. So therefore, they feel like they have the right to create narrative. The new narrative that they're going to create after this game is that Antonio Brown should be considered to be the first wide receiver to get an NFL MVP award if he plays well. So let's see what happens.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look at his body of work, not only just this year, but just the consistency of what he's been able to do. This year, I know he's going to show up. As you said, Jamil, all he has to do now is just show out. And I think if you look at the other guys that are being mentioned for the MVP race, you think Antonio Brown, he's been doing this consistently throughout his career, and this year he's definitely standing out amongst the ones that are being mentioned.
But Tio, he's already statistically what he's doing. He's in the company of the all-time greats. Obviously, doesn't have the decades-long body of work, but over this period, his numbers, they stand up against anybody's. But I just ran down all the receivers, including yourself, who've ever played, barely get votes, let alone win the award. If nobody's done it before now, no matter how good his season is, Julio Jones had that kind of season last year, he's not going to get it over Tom Brady.
Well, Julio Jones was not going to get it over his quarterback, because I believe that the understanding is that the NFL right now is much more of a pass-friendly league. The main reason why Jerry Rice got so much consideration, I believe that John Elway won the award for 1987, but Jerry Rice was very close. I think John Elway got something like 36 votes and Jerry Rice got 30 votes. That's been the closest that a receiver has gotten to winning the NFL MVP award. Jerry Rice also received NFL MVP votes in 6 different seasons. And for the most part, particularly in the 80s, he did not play in a pass-friendly era, at least in comparison to today. Now, the NFL changed a lot of rules to encourage more passing starting in the late 70s, where they took away a lot of the more aggressive forms of bump and run so that they can make the league more pass-friendly. That's when you started to see the emergence of teams and styles of offense like Air Coryell, with Dan Fouts. And, in the 80s, you had, of course, Joe Montana. In the 49ers, you had the great Dan Marino. Then later on, you had run and shoot with Warren Moon and the no huddle with Jim Kelly. All those offenses came down the line after they changed those rules in the late 70s. But what you have today is really no comparison in regards to the freedom of movement that the wide receivers have. So it enables them to get open much, much easier. So that really takes away from a lot of wide receivers and their chances to win MVPs for the NFL. They're more likely to give the award or the accolades to the quarterback throwing them the ball than they ever would a wide receiver, because the belief is that it's much, much easier for wide receivers to catch the ball now.
I mean, it's a nice conversation, but I mean, why I don't know. I was going to ask you, why hasn't a wide receiver ever been MVP? Again, given some of the great ones we've seen, is it just, it's a...
I just answered the question, man. You should know already. You're on TV, right?
It's a quarterback's league, or, what do you think it is?
I'm not sure. Being that you just mentioned, and I was going to say that typically it's always been a quarterback or a number of quarterbacks that have been in the forefront for this award. Again, there's been a number of guys, you mentioned, some in the intro that have been worthy of this, but you think about what Antonio Brown has done. As you said, the body of work speaks for itself, but this year particularly alone, this guy is playing lights out. He definitely deserves, obviously, the name to be mentioned, but he needs to be up there, and I think he should be MVP according to what I've seen.
Yeah, I think a cat might have to crack 2,000. A wide receiver might have to get to 2,000, and he could do it.
I think that somebody would have to be around 2,000 yards, and also his team would have to be like 14-2, somewhere around there, and the vast majority of passes would have had to have gone his way. Like, a quarterback would obviously have to have a very good season, but it can't be great enough that people would look and say, well, the quarterback deserves more accolades than the receiver. Like, it would have to be very similar to a situation where Calvin Johnson had in Detroit in regards to productivity when he broke Jerry Rice's record for receiving yards in a season. But their team was not successful enough for him to receive any form of consideration. That's the type of season that a receiver would have to have in order to win an MVP award.
Somebody like that might be what it takes. But let me ask you something else. His celebration game, which you also know a lot about, is real strong. So
it's MVP too.
Yeah. So, I know you must wish you were still playing now, because some of the stuff you did got you fined and was controversial, and now it's the norm. What are some of the favorite celebrations that you've seen this year, and do they stack up to yours?
I think now with the way they've implemented the touchdown celebration, now it's more about team. Not that I wasn't about team, but I wanted to just really just go out there and really just show my flair, just be excited and just have fun with the game. I think with what Antonio is doing now, again, we kind of set the stage, myself and Chad. But I mean, some of these things, some of them are corny, but I did.
Most of them are corny. Most of these touchdown celebrations that I see are fucking corny. All right, everybody, they make such a big deal about the Pittsburgh Steelers ones. The Pittsburgh Steelers celebrations are corny. 90% of these celebrations that I've seen are corny, and it makes these guys look like idiots, to be quite frank with you.
What's corny?
Some of them are corny, and some are a bit creative. But like I said, there's no telling what I would have done or what I would be doing if I was allowed to celebrate. But I think I posted one on my Instagram. It wasn't from the NFL. It was one from the CFL.
My favorite celebration ever was the Denver Broncos, the Mile High Salute. I thought that shit was off the chain. Terrell Davis and Shannon Sharp and those guys, Ed McCaffrey, Rod Smith, when they would do the Mile High Salute, I thought that was dope.
They did something with limbo or something. Man, that was very, very creative. When you can do something like that and just think outside of the box, you got my attention.
Given your singing prowess that we saw on social media and earlier in the show, I think you would set up a concert. Y'all have been like New Edition and performed "Can You Stand the Rain." Y'all have done karaoke in the end zone. Who knows what you and your fellow teammates would have done?
For those of you who don't know, Terrell Owens steadily tries to hit on Jamel Hill. He's a fan of her eyes, and there was a little segment here earlier in their show where she clearly was trying to throw some vibrations back at him. I'm guessing that there must be some form of issues in her current so-called relationship. But, then again, with a lot of these crazy broads, who the hell knows? Point being is this: T.O. was trying to score one last touchdown.
What? No idea.
Now, as I said at the top of this, that if I had a vote, you would definitely be in the Hall of Fame. Now, this is the third consecutive year.
Absolutely, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. it's just a lot of these idiotic media members who are trying to take a chunk, trying to take a pound of flesh out of his ass for giving them a hard time.
Year you've been named a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. So is this a thing where because of what's happened to you the last couple of years that you just kind of don't even think about it anymore? You're at peace with it, or are you still pretty upset that you haven't been let in despite what the numbers say and where you stand in the history books?
I think number one, there's one Hall of Fame that I'm already solidified and I'm secured in, and that's the Alabama Hall of Fame, and I'm very honored to be a part of that.
Oh, T.O., please. Cut the bullshit out. Ain't nobody thinking about no damn Alabama Hall of Fame. Who the hell's in that bullshit? You and Charles Barkley? Come on, man.
That's going to...
And I forgot, Bo Jackson.
It's going to be, that ceremony will take place in April. But as far as the NFL Hall of Fame, again, I've already spoken the last 2 years. It's not a matter of me being disappointed. I think, again, with the bylaws, and I think Shannon Sharp has eloquently discussed on what they are, and based on why I'm not in there, it doesn't match up. So,
Skip.
I've already expressed my displeasure. It was more of me feeling disrespected than disappointed. So other than that, like we're just talking about Antonio Brown, my body of work and my stats speak for itself. So I don't know what else it needs to happen. So in terms of character and things of that nature, with everything that is going on with all these sexual allegations, my character is definitely intact. I don't really have to worry about anything. And again, if I make it, fine. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. I think most important is my family is proud of the accomplishments that I've done and what I've made in terms of what I've done in the National Football League.
That's great perspective. And you know something? It feels like, given your omission from the Hall of Fame so far, there's more widespread love for you now than there was when you were playing. You know?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that oftentimes happens for people of T.O.'s ilk after they're gone, To me, he goes into the Randy Moss, Allen Iverson, Michael Vick type of archetype, athletic archetype. Kind of the anti-hero type of archetype. Mike Tyson. When after those guys retire and they're going 10, 15 years down the line, there's a tendency to glamorize them. Directly in contrast to how they were overly vilified while they played. Russell Westbrook will fall into that category also once he's gone. Even though he doesn't really get vilified, he does get overrated in this current generation of athletes. But he is kind of an anti-hero because of his persona. But when he's gone, many of the people who watch him will try to claim that he was this unbelievable player, and unfortunately, he never won a championship. I'm just prognosticating right now because I don't believe that he's going to win a championship. I don't believe that he's a championship type player. But I do believe that he'll fall into that archetype of the anti-hero who tended to alienate a certain demographic while he was playing. And then after he's gone, he's going to be overly glamorized. All right? Because once again, Westbrook doesn't fall into that class of over-vilification like an Allen Iverson or a T.O., so on and so forth, but he does kind of fall into that. He is a divisive figure amongst people who talk about sports, particularly basketball. But we'll see. But, like I always say, there's no such thing as bad publicity, particularly if you're an entertainer.
It kind of works for you in a weird way.
You know what I mean? So we appreciate
everything, especially even we just talking about the touchdown celebration. Yeah. Everything that I got vilified for, now everybody is embracing.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, I just tried to have fun with the game, not really knowing that I was going to play beyond the collegiate level. So again,
oh, that's true. The NFL is embracing more celebrations now. But I don't believe that that's a reflection of them loosening up as much as it is them conceding to the players, trying to make themselves appear to be more liberal in regards to certain things that they're divesting to the players. Remember, they decided to allow the players to celebrate in the aftermath of the Kaepernick protests. All right, which started, around the summertime. I should say in the summertime of 2016. Okay, so after the regular season of 2016, the NFL kind of decided, we're going to throw them a bone and allow them to celebrate. So a lot of that really is predicated off of what they had to go through in regards to the social justice agenda that was levied against them by certain powers that be But, that's neither here nor there.
So again, any kids out there that are watching this show, I mean, that should give you some type of inspiration that as long as you put your mind to something, if you have the desire, the dedication, and discipline, you can make it and become anything you want to become.
I agree with that. And beyond that, you don't have to beg. You don't have to search out validation from others. You don't have to scrounge around for a hug to feel like you're equal to somebody else. Only thing you have to do is focus on your goal, concentrate on what your talents are, and try to maximize them. That's it. Okay? It ain't about begging the Caucasian to love you.
I mean, we gotta let you go so you can get to your ugly Christmas sweater party.
Take it easy, Tio. All right.
But anyway, that's the video on Antonio Brown. We'll see what his chances are of winning the NFL MVP. I doubt that he will. He will truly have to shine in the last 3 weeks of the season for him to win the NFL MVP. And of course, this Sunday's game against the New England Patriots is going to play a major, major part in the potentiality of him winning that award. But anyway, peace.